Doing this video to show you guys how I installed it because when they send you the stuff, it really has no instructions. They just send you everything in a box. Next, I had to figure out how to power the D2B adapter. There is a red wire for positive, black for ground. Yellow is for constant power, so I went ahead and used a voltmeter just to see which one of the wires from the car was giving me power even with the engine turned off. Even though the colors of the wires might be similar on yours, I highly recommend you actually check for yourself to see which wire to use. Once I figured out which cable it was for the constant power, I went ahead and tapped into the other side of it where the connector would go, and I was able to put the yellow wire onto that. For red and black cables on the D2B box, I used the cigarette adapters cables. On mine, green and black is the positive and brown was the negative, but I highly recommend double checking to make sure that you get the polarities correct on these. To connect the blue wake wire, I figured I use one of the pins from the green connector that wasn't being used. I pulled it out with pliers. Then I connected the blue wire to the other side. That way I was able to use the pin to connect it for the wake port. As you can see, it's the turquoise one on the right side of the connector, so I went ahead and plugged it in. And that made for a much cleaner way of connecting that cable. And just as a reminder, your connector from the car is going to be bigger because it will have its cover and the locking mechanism that originally came with it. Make sure you cover any of the electric wires that are exposed. For the RCAs coming from the stereo to the D2B box, you have a bunch of RCAs, but what I ended up using is just the front left and front right, and that worked just fine. You can also use the rear left and rear right and it will work the same. You don't need the other ones. Now it was all connected but still had no sound coming through, and I realized that the fiber optics was running through a CD player and the phone system of the car, so you do have to bypass those for the stereo to work because this stereo does not have the same system built inside of it. You do have to remove the panels in the back. There's just a couple of screws. Unfortunately, it's a little bit more work because in order to move the CD player to get to the bottom of it and get to the fiber optics, you actually have to remove the top panel. Otherwise, you can't lift the CD player. So you have to open both sides by unscrewing the covers and taking them out. Once unscrewed, they do come off fairly easy. You have to just be careful and move it out the way, and then you have access to the left side for the top portion. Once you unscrew that entire panel comes off, and now you're going to be able to unscrew and remove the CD player and access the bottom where the fiber optics cable is. Once you pull it out, you'll have to take this connector apart. You pull on the tab and you get access to both of the cables. You have to order a coupler. I'll put the link in the description. And they go in one way each, so you can't mess it up. You may have to turn it a couple of times to see there's a little edge on one of the sides that allows it to go all the way in. So that's connected, and then for me, I had to also undo the back panel, which is accessed through the middle panel here, as you can see. That is to get to the voice module and bypass that one as well. Once you remove this cover, you can see the voice module is right there and the D2B connector. It's a little bit hard to get to. You do have to push from the bottom side of it to on the release button and pull it out of there, but it is doable. I was able to do it without having to take anything else apart. I went ahead and pulled it from underneath in order to access the connector. On mine, it happened to have another coupler in there already, which I used that one to bypass the voice module. To be safe, I would say order 2 of the couplers ahead of time. That way you don't get stuck halfway through the job. I had already opened this before when I was doing my research, so I knew I have one in there. This one was a little bit hard to open, so I used a little screwdriver flathead bit in order to pull the tab up and pull the heads of the fiber optics out. At this point I had sound. I'm playing it pretty low because I don't want YouTube to take this off for copyright violation. Also, I ended up removing the USB ports that come with it because I already had hardwire USB set up and I felt like it's taking too much space in the back. I know the sound quality may not be the same over the video, but I downloaded this song that I have copyrights to play so I could demo it out for you guys to see what it's like when you turn the stereo on. It definitely sounds like the original factory setup. There's also a full EQ that you can actually EQ the songs, which was very nice after I did. Also, one great thing is the steering wheel volume and the next track, reverse track, all that work with the stereo once you set it all up. Thanks for watching.